what should one do if they hear sinful talk, such as backbiting? قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من رأى منكم منكرا فليغير بيده فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه فإن لم يستطع فبقلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. In general, when it comes to munkar, when it comes to sin, the Prophet ﷺ said, whosoever sees wrongdoing among you, then let him change it with his hands. Meaning, you should physically do something about it to change that wrongdoing. You shouldn't just leave it like that. You shouldn't even only speak out against it. You should take active steps to stopping the wrongdoing when you see it. But if you are unable to stop the wrongdoing, if you are unable to physically change the situation, let's say you're sitting among a group of friends and you're a newcomer, you just got there today and they've been friends for so long, you're sitting in their company and suddenly they start speaking about this one and speaking about that one and they engage in all forms of ghiba, then this is wrong. So you might not be able to change the conversation because, you don't have that type of status or social status in that particular group. So what else can you do? The next step is fabilisani, then to speak out against it. So to ask them politely, with wisdom, with gentleness and with rahmah, isn't it possible for us to perhaps speak about something else, something that's not going to make us feel this way, use some wisdom and change the topic, or without even mentioning let's talk about something else, is to bring up some other topic that would draw people's interest. And then third, if you are unable to speak out against it or change the topic, then you should at least, for the very least, not feel good about it in your heart. And part of that would mean you don't stick around. If you can, you politely leave the conversation because you cannot sit there and engage in such talk. And of course, backbiting is an example, but anything of sinful speech, you should certainly try and get out of that situation as soon as possible, because it's not only impermissible and unlawful to speak about others or to speak sinful things, but it's also unlawful to listen to sinful things. Now remember, from a legal perspective, we can speak about the punishment and we can speak about the harms of it. But from a spiritual perspective, also understand that the eyes, the ears, the tongue, these are the windows to the soul. These are the windows to the heart. Every time we allow filth, every time we allow darkness to enter through these passages, we contaminate our heart, we contaminate our souls, and we create distance between ourselves and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or between ourselves and the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is going to be detrimental to anyone. So we have to take action and not allow for our hearts to be contaminated in that way. So one must object to the speech. If you fear that this is going to cause some form of harm, feel bad about it in your heart, and if you can, get up and leave. Do not stay in that conversation and sit and listen and indulge the conversation, because we are as blameworthy as those who remain there, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. In this regard, I'd like you to visit Surah Al-Hujurat in the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the various social dimensions of speaking about others and what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And it's quite beneficial. So read Surah Al-Hujurat and try and reflect on those verses, make tadabbur of those verses. Aside from that, I'd also like you to take note of some ahadith. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever defends the honor of his brother, Allah will defend from his face the fire on the day of judgment. Narrated by Imam Tirmidhi. Further, it was narrated that the Prophet ﷺ stood up to pray and asked, where is Malik ibn Dukhsham? So a Bedouin man said, he is a hypocrite who doesn't love Allah and His Messenger. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, don't say that. Have you not seen that he testified that there is no God except Allah? Have you not seen that he testified that there is no God except Allah, seeking Allah's countenance and pleasure thereby? Indeed, Allah has forbidden the fire from anyone who says there is no God except Allah, seeking His countenance thereby. So you can see the extent to which the Prophet ﷺ defended a believer purely by the fact that he is a believer and he knows that of the person. That's enough to defend a person in their absence. And in relation to ourselves, it is critically important that we monitor our speech, we monitor our behavior, speak and keep the company of people who speak about ideas and who speak about upliftment and positivity, and people who avoid conversations about others. I know it is extremely ubiquitous, found all over the place these days. It seems as though everyone indulges in bad speech. However, this is not a justification for us to simply just go with the trend, right? Whether this be on social media or whether this be in person, try to find friends who just simply, minimize the sin of ghiba and speaking about others. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah.